Chapter 1 Arjuna Grief Introduction. No other race in the world had ever harnessed so successfully the scintillating possibilities of drama in literature for the purposes of philosophical exposition as the ancient Hindus. The Upanishads were recorded in the form of conversations between the teacher and the taught, in the quiet atmosphere of the silent and peaceful Himalayan valleys. In the Gita, however, the highest and the best in Hindu philosophy have been reiterated in a more elaborate, detailed dramatic layout amidst the din and roar of the total war. Krishna gives his message of manly action to Arjuna amidst the breathing, palpitating environment of the clash and carnage of the battlefield. The Kauravas, 100 in number, represent the innumerable ungodly forces of negative tendencies within man's bosom. The Pandavas, no doubt, represent the divine impulses in him. A constant Mahabharata war is being waged within every one of us at all our crucial moments of action. In all cases, the negative forces in each one of us are larger in number and usually mightier in their effectiveness, while the inner divine army is ever lesser in number and apparently comparatively weaker in efficiency. Therefore, every single individual at the moment of his inward checking up must necessarily feel the desperations of Arjuna. The story of the Mahabharata sounds on optimistic note of hope to man that even though the diviner impulses are seemingly less in number, if the same are organized fully and brought under the guidance of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, the Self, then, under his guidance, they can easily be ushered into a true and permanent victory over the outnumbering forces of lust and greed. The Kauravas, representing the negative tendencies and sinful motives in a mortal's bosom, are born as children to the old king Dhritarashtra, a born blind prince. He was wedded to Gandhari, who had voluntarily blinded herself by putting bandages over her eyes. Commentators are tempted to see in this a very appropriate significance. Mind is born blind to truth, and when it is wed to an intellect which has also assumed blindness, the negative instincts, yoked with low motives, can only beget 100 criminalities and sins. When upon the spiritual field of self-development within, the lower instincts and the higher ideals array themselves ready to fight, a true seeker, under the guidance of his divine discriminative intellect, takes himself to a point on no man's land between the two forces for the purpose of reviewing the enemy lines, without identifying himself with either the good or the evil in him. At that moment of this introspective meditations, the egoistic entity comes to feel a morbid desperation and feels generally incapacitated to undertake the great spiritual adventure of fighting his inner war with any hope of victory. This peculiar mental condition of a seeker is beautifully represented in the vivid picture of Arjuna's dejection in the opening chapter. In Sanskrit words, it is recognized tradition that the opening stanza should generally indicate the whole theme of the text. The bulk of the book then discusses at length the different views and gives all possible arguments until in its concluding portion, the last stanza generally summarizes the final conclusions of the Shastra on the theme indicated in the opening section of the book. In this way, when we consider the Gita, we find that the divine song starts with the word dharma and concludes with the word mine. and therefore the contents of the Gita we may conclude are nothing but my dharma, mama dharma. The term dharma is one of the most intractable terms in Hindu philosophy, derived from the root dhar, dhri, to uphold, sustain, support. The term dharma denotes that which holds together the different aspects and qualities of an object into a whole. Ordinarily, the term dharma has been translated as religious code, as righteousness, as a system of morality, as duty, as charity, etc. But the original Sanskrit term has a special connotation of its own, which is not captured by any of these renderings. The best rendering of this term dharma that I have met with so far is law of being meaning, that which makes a thing or being what it is. For example, it is the dharma of the fire to burn, of the sun to shine, etc. Dharma means therefore not merely righteousness or goodness, but it indicates the essential nature of anything without which it cannot retain its independent existence. For example, a cold, dark sun is impossible, as heat and light are the only dharma of the sun. Similarly, if we are to live as truly dynamic men in the world, we can only do so by being faithful to our true nature. And the Gita explains to me my dharma. You are listening to Holy Gita's commentary by Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda Ji. It is advisable to read the book for complete benefit. This audio is only for those who do not have time to read the book. Hari Om.